Want to talk a little bit about something else here. This is a bill to require the Ten Commandments in all of our classrooms. This is the Ten Commandments, moving from to more, more Christian dominionist, Christian nationalist bullshit. Texas lawmakers are pushing to put the Ten Commandments in every classroom. Every couple of years, a bill like this pops up. This is not a new thing. You gotta remember, this is a thing that's been going on for decades. I remember reading stuff about this when I was in high school, right? About how some courthouse or how some state house someplace or whatever wants to put a statue or a monument to the Ten Commandments or whatnot. And it always ends up getting sued and they take it down. But the way that the country's going, now that we have like a Supreme Court filled with a bunch of religious fundamentalists who are ignoring, decades of precedents and established law in order to encode their religious, beliefs into secular law like that. Who knows what the fuck's going to happen? But I want to read a little bit of this, okay? A bill in the Texas legislature will require public schools to display the Ten Commandments in each classroom. Texas and other states have made numerous previous attempts to enshrine the Ten Commandments, but recent rulings from the conservative Supreme Court indicate their efforts could be closer to fruition. The bill, House Bill SB 1515, specifies that a poster or framed copy of the Ten Commandments at least 16 inches by 20 inches should be visible conspicuously in every classroom. The bill, which is set to be discussed in the Senate this week, also requires that public schools accept any donations of such Ten Commandment posters, and if the school has extra copies, they must donate them to other schools rather than discarding them. Yeah, okay. The bill's critics argue that the bill would chip away at the separation of church and state, and it has no place in the classroom, which, it doesn't. Every K-12 public classroom in the state of Texas would be required to display these words: "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant." Please explain that to a 6-year-old, NBC reporter Mike Hixenbaugh tweeted. In 1980, the Supreme Court struck down a law that required the Ten Commandments to be posted in classrooms in Kentucky, ruling that it violated the Lemon Test. The former legal precedent dictating religious freedom of expression. It was the first of many similar legal initiatives that the court blocked. For decades, the Lemon Test, derived from the landmark Supreme Court ruling in 1971, was used to evaluate if a law or government activity violated the First Amendment freedom of religion. The three-pronged test was overturned in a Supreme Court ruling last year and replaced by a legal examination which asks whether religious displays in a governmental setting are in accordance with American history and tradition. That's the attack which they're going. The Texas bill sponsor argue that the bill has legal standing under the new test. So you get it, folks? You see what's going on? Our Supreme Court, which is made up of a conservative Catholic majority, 6-3 conservative Catholic majority, is now discarding years and years and years of precedent, right? 1971. Okay, so that's 42 years of legal precedent, right? Because here's the thing you got to remember, right? So it's not just that ruling, right? The Lemon ruling in 1971 that they're overturning. Every time that ruling was used to uphold another ruling, those are also being overturned as well. They're basically saying that, we made a mistake for 40 years. And now what are they doing? Right? They're putting a thing that says displays in governmental settings are in accordance with American history and tradition. American history and tradition. So what does that mean, right? It means that they can argue now that if the Ten Commandments are part of American history and tradition, but if another religion wants to put their holy text in a classroom, That's not in accordance with American history and tradition, right? So here's the thing about all of these things, right? Every time they would try to do this, let's go ahead and there's really not much else you can get from this. If you want to read it, you know, so this is, well, actually, we can read a little more, right? Like, actually, this paragraph is relevant. Let me just put this, right? Over the years, okay, some have contended that the Ten Commandments are rooted in American tradition, even going so far as to call them the fundamental to Western legal tradition. Some scholars counter that religious parallels can be drawn from many different traditions, texts, and religions rather than placing the Ten Commandments above all others, right? So that's the attack is that they're going to go because this is how this has always been countered in the past. They would always like for example the Satanic Temple would sue. Like if somebody went to put a like I actually remember this case. There was a case where they wanted to put the Ten Commandment like as a monument at the Texas State Courthouse, right? And the Satanic Temple countered and said, okay, well if you're going to put a monument to the Ten Commandments, then we're going to sue and we're going to make you put a statue of Baphomet, right? And so the thing is, according to the Lemon test, that was fair. And the only way it could be fair is that if you put both of them, so that if they didn't want to have a statue of Baphomet, they would have to withdraw the Ten Commandments, right? Under this ruling by the Supreme Court, now all they have to do is say, well, hey, the Ten Commandments is in accordance with American history and tradition, and Baphomet isn't. Here's the big rub, folks. The Ten Commandments are not in accordance with American history and tradition. Okay, the founding fathers were not Christians; they were deists. They did not believe, right, that and they explicitly put in the Constitution that this is a secular country and that there will be no be no requirement of religion, right? They explicitly put that, and there's the Treaty of Tripoli, right, which was one of the first military like actions our country ever took in like 17 like fucking 98 or some shit, was to stop Barbary pirates from kidnapping American soldiers and from merchant vessels. So they sent out the Navy to go suppress these pirates and stop, because what they would do is that they would attack American merchant vessels and then basically sell the people off as slaves and press them into piracy and shit. And in the treaty there that they made with the Sultan of Tripoli, it explicitly says in the United States we are a secular religion. Everybody has rights, and Muslims, we don't recognize any specific like religion as superior to another, and Muslims have the same rights in the United States as Christians. It explicitly says that because the Sultan or whatever, whoever is in charge in Tripoli, countered saying, "Well, we're Muslims, and you know, it says we're allowed to do this." Right? That's how they countered, and so that's what led to the war, right? Essentially, in a nutshell, I'm summing that up. So no, there's an extremely long history going all the way back to the founding of this country, right? About how this is a secular nation, right? So the thing is that you can't rely on that. They're not going to judge that, you know, because the Supreme Court is filled with ideologues. So they're just going to throw all the facts away, and they're going to rule in favor of the religious people, right? I want to read this part here too. Another Texas bill, which is also set to be discussed this week in the Senate, would allow school districts to employ chaplains to perform the duties of school counselors, meaning clergy members could take the roles of trained counselors. Right. So I'm assuming they mean like counselors as in, a child goes and talks to them with their problems and stuff. Because when I was in school, the school counselor, all they did was help you set your like classes. That was their role. Like if I wanted to take, an art class, or if I wanted to take drama, or if I wanted to take shop or something, then that's where you go and they tell you which class is open. They were like a scheduling agent. But I'm assuming they mean like counselors like that you can go to when you're being bullied and shit and they'll help you out, or when you're feeling depressed and they'll help you. I'm assuming that's what they mean. Now think about that. Why do you not want religious clergy members as school counselors, right? Because not everyone follows that religion. Okay. So let's turn this off for now. We've basically, you can read that on your own if you want to finish that up. But it bears that, like if you have a child, then your child basically, you want your child to follow a certain religion, right? We've decreed in this country that children do not have the ability to choose for themselves anything. That's just what the law is like in this country. And if you're Jewish and you want your kid to be Jewish, then guess what? Your kid's Jewish. If you're Muslim, you want your kid to be Muslim, then yes, your kid is Muslim. If you're Christian, then your kid is Christian. And you want your kid to be Christian, then guess what? They're a Christian, right? And you have rights as the adult to determine what your child's religious upbringing is, whether you like that or not. I personally think that's bullshit, but I personally think if I was in charge that, nobody should be able to force anybody to be anything, and nobody should be able to force their children to be in any religion at all. But that's what the law is like, right? You have that right as an adult to determine the religious upbringing of your child. So why would you want somebody who's trained in a religion that you don't believe in giving counseling advice to your child? Why would you want your child going to your school counselor and instead of getting help with their problems, let's say the kid's getting bullied, let's say the kid's feeling depressed, whatever, right? Let's say the kid is angry, something like that, I don't know, whatever the kid talks to the school counselor about, right? And instead of getting the help, that a normal, ordinary, trained counselor would give, this guy is now trying to fucking, like, indoctrinate your child and convert them to a new religion, right? That's what this opens the door to. And of course they're going to say, oh, we won't allow that to happen. They'll have to get the same training. No, but that's what it opens the fucking door to, right? So let's say that you are a Baptist, right? Let's say you're a Baptist. This is, and, you're in Texas. This law passes. And let's say the school hires an Episcopalian church preacher, right, to be the school counselor, right? Do you want your kid getting counseling advice from that person, right? Let's say that school hires a Mormon counselor, right? Do you want your kid getting advice from that person, right? I mean, according to Baptists, according to evangelical Baptists, both of those things that I just mentioned, you will go to hell for believing, right? Especially Mormonism. Like, according to the evangelicals, according to the Baptists, according to the, you know, conservative Protestants out there, like being a Mormon is like the same thing as being a pagan. It's like the same thing as being, believing in Shintoism or something, right? So if you wouldn't want your kid doing that, then how come everybody else has to, like, you know, do the same thing when they're Christian? Why is that? Why if let's say I'm a Hare Krishna and I want my kid to be a Hare Krishna, right? And my kid is a practicing Hare Krishna, and then they go to school and they're being fucking indoctrinated by like a conservative Christian guy, right? You know, are they seeing, reading? I mean, is that what you want? This is a public school, right? That's the reason why that's not right. The public school has to accommodate everyone, not just Christians, right? Not just Catholics, not just Hindus. No, it has to be everybody. And the same reason why it would be wrong, to if I were to put, say whatever creed that Hinduism believes in, and put that in every classroom. It's the same reason why you don't want the Ten Commandments to be up there. What if I put the Satanic Ten Commandments? What if my kid was a Satanist? What if I'm a Satanist and I want my kid to be a Satanist and I take Anton LaVey's 10 Rules of Satanism, whatever the fuck they are. I don't even know if that thing exists. I don't even know if that's a real thing. But let's just say it is, right? Would you want your kid reading those things every fucking day in the classroom? Pretty sure if you were a Christian, you would say no. But how come it's okay? Why? Because the history of our, get the fuck out of here. Oh, it aligns with American history. Fuck you. And that's when you can tell it's bullshit, folks. Right? It's all lies and bullshit. You gotta remember, to the right wing in this country, right? It doesn't matter what the truth is. It doesn't matter, doesn't matter like what actually happened, right? It doesn't matter what actual history was. None of that shit matters. Because they'll say anything. They'll, all they care about is enforcing their will on everybody else. So now, if you go to school in Texas, right, and this is probably gonna pass, and it's probably gonna go up to the Supreme Court, and it's probably gonna get upheld because fuck the Supreme Court, right? And now, if your kid goes to Texas and school in Texas, he's gonna, he or she is gonna be submitted and subjected to this religious indoctrination bullshit, and it will have the force of the state behind it. So that's the shitty thing about it, is it's not optional. If a school doesn't obey this, somebody gets in trouble. That's the real fucked up thing here, folks, right? That's the most anti-American shit ever. That is like completely 100% anti-American right there, to force your religion on other people. But I guess, as long as it's Christian, right? Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.